Всем привет, с вами Леонид, это канал Games, и мы продолжаем проходить игрушку, такую как Закон и порядок. Присаживаемся поудобнее, наливаем чаечек, кофеечек, всем хорошего настроения и погнали. Так. Так. Играть. Так, умный убийца. Это что? Ничей ребенок? О, Господи. Игра. Поехали. В системе уголовного права есть двое отделения одинаковых людей групп. Полицейские расследуют дело и окружные прокурора, которые выдвигают обвинения. Это их истории. Пересеченный. Черт, парень еще даже помнит. Туристы хренов. Что тебе еще один хрен ставили, вы понимаете, что хочешь делать? Твоим телом. Зачем как ты думаешь, им сейчас до того, с учетом того, сколько всяких хреней происходит среди ночи? Ладно, хрен с тобой. И не говори, что я ничего для тебя не сделал. Охереть. Нашел, таки. Должен, да, согласен, надо было привести себя в порядок. Хочу.
Midnight. Welcome to the new millennium.
Looks a lot like the old millennium.
Не могу сказать. Рэй Кертис или Куртис Лайнберсон. Не, закон и порядок я точно смотреть не буду. Я его смотрел очень давно, и не все серии, там, по-моему, Закон и порядок, там их до хрена серии разные, там, по-моему, 25 сезонов. Это Санта-Барбара.
She got called away. Assistant should be here with the body bag anytime.
Poor little kid.
Бедный
Doesn't look more than 12 years old.
Some city we live in, huh?
Что же это за город?
Severe internal
Сильно
hemorrhaging,
внутренний
broken radius,
боль,
multiple
предплечье, множество
contusions.
ушибов.
Somebody beat him with a baseball
Кто избил
bat?
его без
Nah,
пулемета? Нет,
something
это
with a
потому что
sharper
это
edge. Check out the gash across his scalp. He's also got a burn mark on his hand, definitely from a taser, and definitely fresh.
Определенно свежие.
Time of death?
Может,
Around 8, probably.
около 8
Body's
скорее,
pretty stiff.
половина еще не
No
остыла, в
ID,
карманах никаких
nothing in his
документов.
pockets. See the ring around the top of his head where his hair is plastered down?
Had hair. He was wearing a cap earlier today. I've heard of kids getting killed for their shoes, but their hats? What about the bags?
Empty.
Why would he be holding an empty bag?
Hey, detectives. I caught this guy hanging around outside the alley. Elijah the Prophet.
You know him?
Sure. Picked him up at 5 for disturbing the peace. Found him standing on his shopping cart outside the Schubert, ranting about Y2K. I was just
Я просто
telling the
рассказал
people,
людям то,
but
что
the
как
puppet
работы
masters don't want
из
them to
правительства
know.
скрывают их.
Why don't you tell me what you know
Почему бы
about
тебе не
the dead
рассказать мне,
kid
что
over
ты
there?
знаешь о мертвом
I'm the
мальчике?
one who
Это я
reported
сообщил
the
убийство,
murder,
окей?
okay?
Я тут
I'm the
хороший
good
парень.
guy here.
Yeah?
Да,
Well,
и перед
before I
тем,
put in
как
for
я
your
тебе
good
вручу
citizenship award,
награду,
you gotta
как
tell
ты
me,
сегодня
what did you
скажешь,
take from the body?
добрался
What?
до
Do I look
я
like
что,
a
хочу
grave
говорить,
robber?
ничего
And take
не брал.
nothing.
Может ли Браска это опровергнуть? Да. На основании чего? С трупа сняли бейсболку, а там А та бейсболка, что носит Илая в пятнах крови. Good job, detective.
That cap doesn't fit you so.
Не похоже, что вы
It shrank in the wash.
весело поместить.
Or maybe you
А может
swiped
быть,
it off the kid.
не мальчик.
All right.
Ладно, ладно.
He was
Но
through
она же
using
все
it,
равно уже не
wasn't he?
поняла. Так,
Now let me go. I
Перепусти
gotta
меня
get
и
over
всё.
the Lincoln Tunnel. Go
Кроме
protect my
вопросов.
stockpile from looters.
Listen, Elijah,
слушай,
I know
ты
you're a
знаешь, ты
prophet.
пророк, я
and
всего
I'm
лишь
just a
коп.
cop, but
Взгляни
take it
на
from
это с
me,
моей
this
стороны.
Y2K
Вся эта
bug
горничная
is a bunch of
плохая
BS.
полночь.
That's what you
Это вы
government
правительство
stooges want us to think.
состоит
But
тогда.
I'm not one of
Но я
your
не такой, как
gullible
ваша
plebes.
доверчивая
I
толпа. Я
read.
читаю
Well,
газеты.
there's your problem.
Ну, это твои
And
проблемы.
I'll tell you
И
another
вот что
thing.
я еще скажу.
After
К
your
тому времени ваша
computer-controlled
компьютерная
police
полиция
state
что-то
comes
развалится к
crashing
чертям.
down,
Вот такой.
I'll be equipped to survive.
Ты серьезно? Ну
In the
зачем?
style to which you've
Но
grown
если ребята
accustomed,
идет и
no
там
doubt.
как... You forward red.
I want you to turn over everything you took off the kid. Now.
I'm
Я
homeless,
бездомный
officer.
офицер. Все,
Everything
что у
I
меня
own
есть,
is
со
on
мной,
me.
так что
So go ahead,
поискивайте.
search.
Говорит ли правду Илая? Его зовут Илая? Нет. Не говорит он. Так, Илая сообщила про сигнал с домашнего телефона. Она упомянула про свои пожитки, и у него, по словам патрульного, была тележка для покупок.
I seem to recall you saying something about a stockpile.
Nobody gets near my stockpile. I'm a citizen. I got a constitutional right to my stuff. It's there in the Fourth Amendment, pig.
I'll have to read it sometime. But meanwhile, you're still the most likely suspect in this case. Okay, buddy, tell the truth. Did you do this?
Kill the kid, you
Ты
mean?
думаешь, я убил
You think
пацана?
I
А
killed the
чувак, ты
kid
думаешь,
and
я
then turn
еще
around and
шлепнул
reported
нос
it?
этого?
Do I look crazy?
Я дебил?
So, where were you at 8 o'clock this evening?
Enjoying the hospitality of the 5th Precinct. I was in the holding tank.
Да. Патрульный упомянул, что Илая подвергался аресту.
That true?
Yeah, he was
Да,
released about 8:30.
где-то
I guess
8:30.
that clears you.
Думаю, ты чист. Да. Он чист.
Look, I can take you
Слушай,
down to
я
the
могу
station
тебе
right
сейчас
now and let
заплатить
the
часики,
jackbooted
посидеть
thugs
камеру.
work you over,
Вот,
or
да.
you can take me to your stockpile.
Покажи,
Which is
как
it gonna be?
I'm
поступим.
not scared of
Ты
you.
меня не
Come the
напугаешь, как
stroke
ты
of
придешь
midnight,
в полночь
your
нашего
police state's
стада,
gonna
придешь
collapse
на меня,
like a
они
rotten
такие,
jack-o'-lantern.
КВН. Может ли броска доказательно? Да. Уже полночь. Good job, детектив.
I hate to burst your
Мне жаль
bubble,
тебя
Mr.
разочаровать,
Prophet, but
но
it's
полночь уже
already
давно
after midnight.
пробила.
Huh? I should have known
А я
it
так и
would be
знал, что
off.
ни хера не будет
Stupid
хреновые
tourist junk.
туристы.
But
Но я
I
не
don't get
понимаю,
it.
вся
The
система
system's
вещей
supposed to be
должна была
crashing.
рухнуть.
How
Почему
come the
же
streetlights are
уличные
still
фонари
on?
все еще горят?
We have this
Ну, это
super
есть
secret emergency
секретная
backup
система
system.
аварийного освещения.
Damn you
Черт
guys.
вас
You
подери,
think of
Вы обо
everything.
всем
Now,
подумали?
should I call the
Конечно,
station and
покатились на
have them
участок,
charge up the
поговорили.
cattle prods?
No, that
Не,
won't be
не надо.
necessary.
Идите за
Follow
мной.
me. There's my
Вот
stockpile.
моя
Stuff I got from the kid's bag is in the
эти
bundle
ожитки
on
хлама,
top.
чтобы
Fosse program,
Программа
Annie get your gun
Fosse, Annie,
sweatshirt,
возьмите свою
cabaret
ружье, толстую
mugs,
фишку,
one ticket
карабрат,
to
один
Aida.
билет на
Hey,
Аиду,
a credit card
кредитная
receipt.
карточка.
Yeah, that ought to get us
Неплохая
somewhere.
зацепка. Серьезно? Неплохая зацепка?
And the credit card people told you right where I was staying?
They had a record of the hotel charge, Mrs. Tallis, and the hotel confirmed you're booked through the end of the week.
Amazing. You managed to recover my stolen bag when I didn't even report the crime.
That's the networked world for you.
And here I thought all the networks were going to be down today.
For God's sake.
We're investigating the murder of the thief, and we'd like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Of course. As long as I don't miss curtain time. We're catching Dame Edna tonight.
Here's a photo of the merchandise we recovered from the shopping cart. Do you see everything that was in your bag?
I think so, yes. Aha! So that's where my ticket to Aida went. I emptied out my handbag looking for that son of a gun. Had to miss the... Statue of Liberty.
Come again?
There was a model of the Statue of Liberty, about yay high. It had a marble base with a clock in it.
Как вам кажется, миссис Талис говорит правду? Да? У пророка была найдена... У пророка была найдена этот мраморная вот эта статуя. Где была украденная сумочка?
Can you tell us where the bag was stolen?
It was on 42nd Street. About 4:30. I was just coming from the half-price ticket booth, very pleased with myself. I managed to snag the very last ticket to a preview of Aida. I felt a tug, and before I knew what was what, there he was, zipping away with my bag.
So you wouldn't be able to ID him?
I'm afraid I didn't see his face, just his backside.
Соответствует ли это фактам? Каким? Да. А что именно? Так, ну подготовили. Каким образом? Патрульный подтвердил показания миссис Талис. В рюкзаке был найден билет на Аиду. Что такое Аида? Ну ладно. Бармен отеля подтвердил, что миссис Талис не было ни на обеде, ни счастливого часа. Камера наблюдения зафиксирована. Не зафиксировано. Открытая новая тема.
What brought you to New York?
The millennium, of course.
Конечно.
It's not the millennium back in St. Louis?
Well, of course.
Ну да, конечно. Это именно здесь настоящий
My friends and I are part of the theater society, the Looky Loos. We make the Broadway trek once a year, usually in the fall. But this time around, we decided to wait a bit, so we could be part of all the fun in Times Square.
Times Square?
How come you didn't report the crime?
Well, I mean, it was New Year's Eve. I'm sure the police had their hands full just keeping the peace.
So it was a courtesy to us?
Well, that and, you know, I'm flying back to St. Louis tonight, and what can I say? I guess I just chalked it up as a loss.
Правдоподобна ли история миссис Талис? Нет? Ну ладно. Да!
Mrs. Tallis, where were you at 8 o'clock last night?
Was that the time of the murder? Are you asking me for my alibi?
If you don't mind.
Not at all. This is just like that TV show. Wait till the girls hear about this.
Mrs. Tallis.
I was at Aida, of course, with the other looky-loo ladies.
Вы опровергайте алиби. Да. Ну, плохо, что я ошибся на одном. Билет на Аиду был в числе украденных вещей. Ну, ладно. На одном ошибку сделал.
Wait, wasn't your ticket one of the things that was stolen?
Yes. And it was the last one available. You caught me, detectives. Truth is, since I couldn't get in, I ended up killing time. Just milling about with the New Year's crowds. I was waiting for the show to be over so I could meet up with the group and hear about it. I don't think it's going to run long.
How was the big party
Как
in
вам
Times
торжество
Square?
Таймс-сквер?
Fabulous.
Великолепно,
Everything I could have
свыше
wished.
всяких
Were
похвал.
you there?
А вы там были?
No, I
Нет, у меня
had to
много
work.
работы.
Such a pity.
Так
My
жаль,
friends
мы
and
с
I
вами
managed to
друг
push our way in
коротились
front of the
прямо
cameras.
камерой.
I even
Уже
reached out and touched Dick Clark's
приказ
toupee.
Карла.
Something to tell the grandkids about.
I think we're drifting
Думаю,
off
мы
topic.
отклонимся от темы. А, это ложный след.
Did you get
Опишите
a
вора.
good look at the thief?
Oh, not really. It all happened so fast.
Try to remember. You may have been the last person to see him alive.
Oh, dear.
У
He
нас
was
есть
just a
большой
boy,
мальчик,
poor
бедняжка,
thing.
капит.
Brown hair.
Штаны и
I think
волосы,
he was
думаю,
wearing a
конечно.
sports jersey
Да.
of some sort.
Событие
It had a
было
logo
нарисовано.
on the
Логотип
front of,
средственной
you know, that
команды не
team
играют.
that plays
Что-то.
the game with the ball.
Правдоподобно ли показания местились? Нет. Неправдоподобно. Почему нет? А. Она сказала, что видела мальчика только со спины. Серьезно?
You saw the logo
Вы
on the boy's
разглядывали
jersey
этот
while he
мальчик,
was
когда
running
он бегал?
away?
Oh, well, no,
Ну, в
what I
общем,
mean is,
я видел,
I
я знаю
recognize the
цвет
team
команды.
colors.
Which are?
Какой именно?
You know,
Не знаю такой.
green and
Зеленый и
gold.
золотый.
What are you not
Что вы
telling
на
us,
меня
Mrs.
доверили
Tallis?
остались?
well, I
Ну
suppose I
ладно,
did see a
полагаю,
bit more of
что,
the boy than I
наверное,
let
вы
on.
свидетелем больше, чем
I got into a bit of a
это.
tussle with
Схватилась
him before he got
Он
away.
бежал.
What makes you think Aida isn't going to run?
My friend Gloria Hempel told me it wasn't up to the standard of Sir Elton's earlier work, and she has excellent judgment. But you know, she fell asleep in the second act of Steel Pier, and it closed a week later.
Прикольно.
You
Драка.
got into a tussle.
I'm not entirely naive, you know. I'm well aware how rough the streets of Manhattan can be, especially on New Year's
Особенно
Eve.
накануне Нового года,
Let's
скажем
just
так,
say
я
I
был
came prepared.
накануне готов.
May I?
I feel
Позвольте
just awful
мне
about it now,
столь
knowing what
странно
happened to the
жалко,
boy,
что
you
так
know,
что
after.
с этим
But,
мальчиком
well,
я
it was the
обязан
instinct of self-preservation
рефлексии,
kicking in.
самоконтроль.
Well, from the looks of
С
it,
этой
your
точки
instincts
зрения
are
ваша
quite
реакция
healthy,
мне
Mrs. Tallis.
нормальная.
Did you go after the
Вы
thief with
последовали
any of
ворам
these
в
weapons?
шоке?
Of course not.
Конечно, нет.
He was just a
Он же был
child.
еще ребенок.
I'd never
Я бы
risk
не
hurting
стала
a child.
ребенку. Чего, блядь? Нет. Потому что на нем были... Кёрти сказал, что на руке мальчика был ожог от шокера. О-о-о, подруг, ты попала. Рассказывай на чистую воду.
We found a
Мы
taser
нашли
burn on the
ожог от
boy's
шокера
hand.
на руке мальчика.
Did you?
Правда?
Yes,
Да,
I
полагаю,
suppose I
это
may
я
have
ударила
tased
шокером.
him.
Не сильно,
Not
поверьте.
badly, mind
Просто
you.
небольшой
Just a little mini
разряд,
tase.
чтобы
Enough to knock him down.
вырубить его. Затем
Then I
я
grabbed from my bag and we
схватилась за сумку, и мы
tussled.
стали драться.
But he got away.
И он уже
Children
убежал.
are slippery.
Дети такой юркие.
Mrs. Tallis, how would you like front row tickets to a new drama? It's playing down at the Manhattan Criminal Court
Думаю,
building.
всегда.
Now, wait a minute,
Ну,
detective.
Вы же не
You don't
думаете, что
seriously
я
think
That you're holding something
таким
back?
образом вы
Yes.
кое-что
So why don't you
предопределили
hand it over?
it's the boy's backpack?
Рюкзак мальчика.
I pulled
Я
it off
видел
him when we
его на
were,
руках
you
его,
know,
когда ты
Tussling.
дрался.
right.
Верно,
I
я
said
сказал
to
ему,
him,
отдай
give me
мне
my
мою
bag and
сумку,
I'll
я
give you
отдам
yours.
тебе твою, но
But he
он
just took
просто
off
побежал
without it.
с моей
I
сумкой.
guess he was
Я думаю,
scared.
сильно
And
перепугался.
why didn't you
А
tell
почему
us
вы
this
так
at the
и не
start?
сказали самого
Take a
начала?
look inside.
Взгляните на
You'll
смысл.
see his trinkets are
Понимаете, его
considerably more valuable than
кудряшки
mine.
до дороги
I
моих.
figured I got the
Я
better
считал,
deal in the
что
exchange. And it would have made such a great punchline to my story.
Что я знаю.
Quite an assortment we got here.
Looks like our victim had a busy day.
Yeah, but is any of this stuff gonna get us closer to an ID?
Да, она есть. Это я уже читал.
What's playing on the Discman?
Что за диск?
Ricky Martin.
Рики Мартин.
That's what comes of living La
Это
Vida
всё
Loca.
наживается
You don't notice the
на
sneak
изящном-
thieves.
Wonder Woman, where are you?
If the kid drew that, he's pretty good. A cry for help?
To a superhero? He could at least learn how to spell Wonder Woman. Giles Breton's passion. I don't even want to take a whiff of that.
Амфетамин.
Look at this, look at
Смотри-ка
this.
на это.
It's gonna be what, 3 grams of crack?
Крэк. А, крэк.
No, I think
Нет,
it's
это
methamphetamine.
метамфетамин. Нет,
Times are
все-таки
changing.
метамфетамин.
Think the kid smoked it?
More likely he was transporting it for somebody. And March handbag.
Сумка.
Deborah would kill for one of these. Not that she's ever gonna get one on my salary.
Чего? А что еще я не нашел? Комикс? Какой комикс?
Top of the world ticket. Timestamp 2 o'clock on the 25th.
So his mom took him to the top of the World Trade Center for Christmas?
Or maybe he took himself up so he could collect his own Christmas presents from all the tourists while they were busy gawking out the window.
You're a cynic, Curtis, but you're probably right.
Check it out.
Я
Little
никогда
gloomy
даже не
comics
комиксы
digest.
на ковине.
What's the resale value on
Как ты
that?
думаешь, сколько это сейчас? Не знаю, много.
Hey,
Ой,
what's that?
а это что? Не знаю.
Voucher for a
Талон
free
на
lunch at the 9th
бесконечный
Avenue
обед в общественном
Community
центре
Center.
на
It's from
45-й
a
авеню.
child welfare
Я
agency. Good
вписано
Shepherd. Turn it
социальное
over.
обеспечение детей.
Bingo.
Бинго.
Aaron
Вот,
Bauer.
серьезно?
Good Shepherd. Name sounds familiar. Catholic agency?
Yeah, I'm calling him right now. This is Detective Ray Curtis of the 27th Precinct. I've got some information about someone, a minor. I believe he may be a client of yours.
Так, если я не
Name's
полагаю,
Aaron
что
Bauer.
ваши где-то
Yes.
подопечные
Oh.
слезы это...
Wait a minute. That's that guy. What's his name? Montrose.
Montrose?
Монтрose.
Stephen Montrose.
Да,
He's the director down there. Wrote that book that made a big splash last spring. The Empty High Chair.
Sure. I've seen him on talk shows. He's always going on
About how the child welfare system breaks up families and needs to be reformed from the top down. His agency's been getting tons of good press.
Не успеваю
And we'll
читать.
need the boy's case file as well.
И нам понадобится еще личное дело.
Thanks a
Да-да.
lot.
Большое спасибо. Сильно. Сильно.
Kid lived with his mother.
Мальчик жил
Caseworker said
со
she
своей
could arrange a
матерью.
meeting at the
Социальная работа
agency in
сказала.
3 hours.
Well, this ought to be
Это должно
pleasant.
быть чудесно.
That's Aaron, all right.
Да, все верно.
You're
Это
the caseworker?
вы всегда на
From
работе.
the start.
Да, я здесь.
Who
Это
are they?
шуточку.
This is Detective
Это
Briscoe
Бриско
and
и
Detective
Кертис.
Curtis.
Cops.
Легавый,
You
вы
didn't
мне
tell
не
me there was
сказали,
gonna
что
be
здесь
cops
будут
here.
копы.
Sit down, Mr.
Сидите, мистер Бауэр. Ёперный бабай. Я-то... Ёперный бабай. Это ей... Это у нее сын умер? Ого.
Mrs. Bauer,
Мисс
there's
Бауэр,
no
вы
easy way to say
слышали,
this.
что ваш
I'm
сын
afraid your son Aaron
мертв.
is dead.
Nah,
Он
he's just
просто
messing
дурачит
with
вас,
you.
прикидывается
Playing
духом.
possum, he
А
always
после он
does
всегда
that.
так
He
делает.
makes
Просто
believe.
изображает.
I'm sorry,
К
Mrs.
сожалению,
Bauer.
мисс Бауэр,
We
мы
found his
нашли
body
тело
last
прошлой
night.
ночью.
Severe
Чернобыльная
head
травма.
trauma.
Я боюсь,
We were
что...
afraid
Give
that
me a break,
Тормозите-ка,
okay?
окей?
Where is
Где
he
он в самом
really?
деле? Вы
You
просто
just wanna
опять
put him back
хотите
in
забрать
city
его
youth home.
в детский приют? Это не
That
место.
place is a
Просто от
hellhole.
хренов.
We're trying to figure out who
Мы
did this.
пытаемся найти того, кто
And we
с
need
ним
you
это
to answer
сделал,
some
и нам нужно, чтобы ответил.
Yeah.
Да,
Shoot.
валяй. Печально, конечно. Ого.
Can you tell us when you last saw Aaron?
He was gone when I
У
woke
меня не
up.
было такого.
Oh,
Наверное,
probably
я
up at the
проиграл с
arcade.
автоматом. Да,
I
я
was sleeping late, so
поздно.
sue
И
me,
что
right?
это? Противозаконно,
Last
вчера
night
был
was New
новогодняя
Year's Eve.
ночь.
We know, but
Понятно,
when
но
did
когда
you
вы
see your
видели
son?
последний раз своего сына?
9 o'clock.
В 9 вечера. Это время пора спать и что-то. Это подтверждает доказательства? Нет. Нет. Почему? Установленное время смерти 8 часов вечера. Миссис Берр сказала, что он ушел, да? Он в 8 утра умер. Ну, вернее, 8.
Mrs. Bauer,
Мисс Берр,
Aaron was
он был
killed
убит
at
в 8 вечера. Я сказал, что он просто прикидывался. Да, прикидывался мертвым.
We found your son's
Мы нашли
backpack,
рюкзак
and that's
вашего
what led
сына,
us to
таким
you.
образом
Some items in
нашли
it lead
вас,
us to suspect that he was involved in criminal activities.
Bullshit.
Чушь собачья, мой Аарон хороший мальчик, он с наркотой дел не имел. Ну, с виду. Имеет ли утверждение мисс Бауэр? Да. Кертис ни слова не говорила. Кертис ни слова не говорила о наркотиках. Ошибочка вышла. Мы не говорили.
We didn't say
Мы
anything
вообще
about
ничего не говорили
drugs.
о наркотиках.
Was there anyone who wished your son harm who might have beat him?
Oh, he's gonna get a beating, I tell you what. He knows damn well what comes of pulling stunts like this. Yeah.
Так его
He's gonna get it good.
это что?
Mrs. Bauer,
Миссис
did
Бауэр,
Aaron have any
были
enemies?
враги?
Enemies?
Враги?
No.
Нет, он же еще мальчишка.
He's just a kid.
Ответила ли мисс Бауэр на ваш вопрос? Нет. Почему нет? Из ее ответов можно сделать вывод, что в прошлом она била Аарона. Вот ее еще и била. Да как она ударить может? Развалится. Если...
You ain't New York City
Ой,
cops at all.
дерьмо. Если как вообще не сколько.
You're from Russell County.
What?
О чем
Bastard.
ублюдки ваши
You
черные?
goddamn kidnappers ain't gonna get away with this. You're not taking him again.
Вы не
I'll
заберете
kill
нас, я
you.
убью.
What's going on here?
Что здесь происходит?
He's my baby.
Это мой ребенок.
He's
Мой
my
ребенок.
baby.
You don't have to stand
Вы
for
не
this.
обязаны терпеть мисс Бауэр. Отвези ее. Везите ее
Of
домой.
course.
Конечно. Вы кто такой? Вы кто такой? Дядька.
Stephen
неотесанный.
Montrose, General Director of Good Shepherd. Would you mind explaining what just happened in my office?
В офисе.
You just interfered with the murder
Разбирали
investigation. Is Jenna Bauer a suspect?
Jenna Bauer is the
Бауэр,
mother.
мать убитого.
Oh,
О, я
see.
понял. Послушайте, детектив.
Look, detectives.
Это агентство
This
было
agency
создано,
was set
чтобы
up to serve
служить
the needs of
интересам
at-risk
нищих
families,
семей.
those whom the other agencies have
Да-да-да, я
abandoned
не
to
услышал
poverty
ничего
and addiction.
интересного.
We understand,
Мы
but
понимаем,
dude,
но в самом деле вы
You just come
вломились сюда на
steamrolling in
всех
and hit one of my
парах
clients with about the most
клиентов.
devastating news you can imagine. But
Представьте,
instead of
что
leaving her to her grief, you
оставить
turn
ее
around and
вниз.
give her the third degree, like she was a common criminal. Not in my office, detectives, not here.
Детективы,
I'm sorry
мне
you
жаль,
don't
что
approve
вы
of our
осудили
technique,
наши методы,
Dr.
доктор
Montrose,
Монтрос.
I'm familiar with
Я
the boy's
достаточно
case
хорошо знаком
history.
с личным
I can
мальчиком.
answer your
Я могу
questions.
ответить на вопрос. Ты уверен, что ты этого хочешь? Ну хорошо, Рассел Кайн 3.
What was Mrs.
Вы в курсе,
Bauer
что
yelling
кричал
about
мисс
when you
Бауэр, когда
came
вы
in?
вышли?
something about us
Это
being
насчет
from
того, что мы
Russell
приехали
County,
из
come
Рассел
to take
Каунти,
her
чтобы
kid.
забрать ребенка.
Can't help you with
Тут
that
я
one.
ничего не могу помочь.
My knowledge of
Я
the
знаком
Bauers
с
only
историей
goes
Бауэра
back 2
только
years.
около 2 лет с того
That's when they arrived
момента
in New York.
не появилась.
Jenna was living on the street when Good Shepherd first intervened,
Жена
about 6 months later.
полгода назад.
The legal machine had
Он
shunted the
меня
boy off
перекинул
to
прямо
city
на мальчика в
Utah.
детский приют.
We
Нам удалось
successfully fought to get mother and son back
противостоять
together.
решению.
So you see,
Так что, как вы видите,
Jenna
у
Bauer
жены
does
Бауэр
have some
существуют
cause
такие
for
причины
feeling
не
less
испытывать
than friendly
дружбу
toward the police.
отношение к полиции. Соответствует ли рассказанное доказательство? Да. Почему? Так, каким образом? Социальный работник сказал, что знаком с семьей Бауэра уже полгода. Талон питания был датирован июлем 1988 года, 1908, мистер Бауэр упомянул тот факт, что Аарон забирали в детский приют. Значит, детский приют. Угу.
Aaron was involved in some shady business. There were drugs in his backpack.
Crystal meth.
Is there any possibility that he or his mother...
No. Our clients don't abuse drugs.
Ну, если у вас основания опровергать это, да. Адресу самого метро сам самого. Адрес уже говорил, что многие из подопечных имеют вредные привычки. У него вредные привычки, да, налегкую. Ест, пьет и все дела.
None of them? You said yourself these are at-risk people.
Of course. Most have struggled with addictions of one sort or another. But each of our clients has made a commitment to turn his or her life around. We work closely with Mrs. Bauer. We can vouch for her.
Give me some background on Good Shepherd. Did you found this agency?
No, Detective. Good Shepherd has been in existence since 1933. It was founded by the Sisters of Trinity Convent, but their order has been dwindling since Vatican II. It was placed in lay hands in the early 80s, and I was named as director in 95. The church still technically oversees the business, but we're negotiating purchase from the archdiocese.
This is all very interesting, but really, shouldn't we stay focused on Aaron Bauer?
On the evidence, I'm not so sure Mrs. Bauer should have had custody.
Do you always blame the parent for their child's death, Detective? Or only when the parent is poor?
Now, wait a minute.
No, you wait a minute. People like Jenna Bauer have had it hard enough in New York just getting by. It doesn't help when the city's guardians look at them like they were moral degenerates.
Есть ли у вас основания полагать, что Дженна была плохой матерью? Да. Какие основания? Так. Один наркоманом был. Охереть, серьезно?
She practically bragged that she beat the kid.
You're mistaken, Detective. All of our clients are given intensive training in positive parenting.
Ну, посмотрим.
When's the last time the Bauer's caseworker paid a visit, do you know?
Of course. Miss Schuyler filed a visitation report on Christmas Day.
We'll need to see the case file.
I'm sorry, that's not possible.
This is a murder investigation, Dr. Montrose.
The files contain some sensitive material from several years ago in another state. I assure you nothing remotely relevant to the current tragedy.
Нет, не противоречит ли себе Монтроуз? Да. Так, он ранее заявлял, что ничего не знал о себе Бауэр до того, как они появились в Нью-Йорке около 2 лет назад. О, он сам себя и закопал, грубо говоря. Вот такой у нас такие пошли в Нью-Йорк. Ничего существенного, вот что я имел в виду.
How exactly do you train your clients in positive parenting?
Why do you ask? Are you looking to brush up on your skills?
I just want to know how the training process works.
Well, we've got a publication, Children Can't Be Beat. It serves as our course curriculum. New clients meet once a week to work through the lessons and talk about their own experiences as parents.
This is all very fascinating, but shouldn't we be discussing the Bauer case?
Нет, конечно.
Dr. Montrose, I've got to insist that you follow procedure and turn over the Bauer case file.
You should have called ahead, detective. Procedure dictates that you give us at least 2 hours advanced warning.
Это что? Справедливо ли это возражение? Нет. С чего я вам должен? Я вам ни хера не должен. Почему нет? Кертис запросил личное дело мальчика, когда заговорил с агентом по телефону 3 часа назад. Вот так вот. Все, пошел.
I put in a request when I phoned the caseworker.
Well, I wasn't informed.
Why are you putting up roadblocks? Partner with us here.
Sorry, but I know what happens when you partner with the city. They tell you they're only going to see that you follow state guidelines, but it's really a pretext for legal action. They'd love to take Good Shepherd away from me.
Well, I thought Good Shepherd was run by the Archdiocese.
The same goes double for them. I stay away from all bureaucrats, sacred and secular.
You know we can get a court order.
You can, but you won't. I've fought the city many times, detective. It's a powerful adversary. But it hates to look bad in public. I know how to make it look bad. That's how I bought the space to run my agency my way.
То есть на тебя ордер не выпишут. Да, конечно.
So tell me,
так скажи мне, что за проблема миссис Бауэр с полицейским?
You want to hear about Jenna Bauer's problem with cops?
Полицейские застрелили отца. Наркокартеля вломился посреди ночи.
When Mr. Bauer stepped forward to defend his home, they shot him. Just another casualty of the drug war. So can you blame Mrs. Bauer for thinking maybe the story was repeating itself?
Ну, а основания у тех агентов были или нет?
I just had an enlightening conversation with the sheriff of Russell County, Kansas. He told me about the drug bust that killed Aaron's dad. Apparently, they found 3 pounds of meth in the house.
That's a relevant fact.
Это очень важный факт. Интересно, сказал ли об этом личном деле.
You really think Mom's the killer?
I hope my hunch is wrong.
Надеюсь, я не прав, но да.
You better hope your hunch is right. Montrose has himself a big megaphone, and he's been making a lot of noise about how you roughed up his client. What's your plan? Subpoena the boys' files?
Maybe.
Возможно, но думаю, сначала нам нужно довести визит к мистеру Бауэру. Ну, в случае. Газетчик все еще не дают проходу после того, как мы застрелили. Женился на замешанной квартире и уедете. Надеюсь, вы что знаете, что делать. Я не успеваю читать, потому что очень быстро она тараторит. Ну, все они быстро тараторят, а если я буду читать очень быстро, то... Полиция Нью-Йорка, открывайте. Миссис Бауэр, если вы не хотите мир, мы будем выломать дверь. Да ломайте вы ее уже, людям собачек. Ох, блин, ну и свинарник. Серьезно? Если нам повезет, то я бы не волновался насчет этого. О, черт. А, тут еще труп. Мертва? Абсолютно. Я сообщу участок. Да, это Бриско. Мы находимся на месте преступления в квартире семьи Байер. Похоже, похоже, здесь самоубийство. Самоубийство? А как ты так определил? Подожди, братан, а как ты... А как ты можешь так сказать сразу, что это самоубийство? Это жертва. Помните, обведите объекты кружком, чтобы исследовать их. Наведите мышкой на стрелки, чтобы перемещаться по локации. Ага. Нажимаю увеличивая стекло. Хорошо. Пустая бутылка водки.
Wonder how this fell over.
Попала сюда. Место статуя свободы. Дальше жит миссис Талис.
Damn it, Lenny.
Черт возьми, Лень, глянь-ка вот сюда. Кровь. Могу предположить, чья бедный парень не явился домой со статуэткой. Так, у нас что у нас тут? Чек. Кто-то заплатил Джен Бауэр в прошлом июле 10 тысяч баксов. О, 1000 баксов за нее. Мне такое чувство, что они сейчас не должны. Интересно, как она...
Meth pipe.
Looks like Mom had a bad habit.
Guess we know who Aaron was bringing the cane for.
And knowing meth addicts, I can imagine she wasn't too compassionate when she came home without it.
Наркотики.
Satisfied?
Yeah, I think our killer's gonna miss her date in court.
You think she overdosed on purpose? Out of guilt?
Maybe. She's a junkie, Ray. Don't hurt yourself trying to figure it out. Well, what do you know?
Не обижай человека.
Me?
It's the caseworker from Good Shepherd, and she's knocking on the wrong door. Oh, hey, miss, the party's down here.
Detective Briscoe? What are you doing? Oh my God! It's Mrs. Bauer.
I'm afraid so.
Tell me, did the place look like this on Christmas Day?
Well, how should I know?
Isn't that the date of your last visit?
My last visit? I wasn't here on Christmas.
Ой, я лучше свяжусь с офисом по поводу этого.
I'd better call the office about this.
Может, ты еще с нами поговоришь? Доктор Монтроуз? Да, я в квартире. Тут кое-что произошло. О чем вам стоит знать? Серьезно, о чем вам знать? У вас почему-то подчиненные умирают. Охереть, это плохо.
The Bauer case.
Дело Бауэра.
Isn't it time we close the file on that one?
I'd love to, believe me, but justice hasn't been done.
Poetic justice, maybe. Nobody comes away from this one looking good, including us.
What Detective Curtis is saying, we think you've got a case against the Good Shepherd
against Stephen Montrose, you mean? The champion of the downtrodden?
Are you saying he's the killer?
No, but his agency failed to prevent the deaths. We feel he's responsible.
Oh, great.
Да.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Продолжайте, я
Tell me why
слушаю.
we should go
Объясните мне,
after
почему мы
Montrose.
должны взять. Да, серьезно.
Montrose impeded our investigation.
He was actively uncooperative.
He refused to turn over Aaron Bauer's case files.
That's clearly over the line.
Sure.
Конечно,
city chose not to pursue a subpoena at the
дело в суд.
time.
Теперь уже
Now it's beside
это
the
не
point.
Конечно. Монтроуз так, Метроуз не отслеживал ситуацию ложным образом. Подверг
Aaron's mom could never have beat him to death if it weren't for Montrose.
He put the weapon in her hands?
Montrose pulled the kid out of city youth home and got him back with his mom.
And family court signed off on it.
True. The whole system's partly to blame for that bad decision.
Это я сразу
Law
все три.
says the child welfare agency's got to check in with clients regularly.
And Good Shepherd didn't?
Разве добрый пастырь? У вас есть основания полагать, что агентство добрый пастырь не исполняет обязанности по отношению с семьей Бауэр? Да. Миссис Бауэр сказала, что встреча в офисе ни разу не встречались Так, миссис Бауэр сказала, что до встречи в офисе ни разу не встречалась с работой.
Apparently not.
She drew a blank when we asked about her last visit.
And Montrose himself basically admitted that he ignores state procedure.
Are we going to stand by and let our social service agencies go rogue?
Jack, we don't have a case against him.
Not yet.
Пока нет, но давай,
Let's see what's in those case files.
The Bauer case.
I'd love...
Oh, Ed,
Да.
what did...
Against?
Are you...
No.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Law says a child...
And good.
Один.
Apparently not.
She drew a blank when we asked about her last visit.
And Montrose himself basically admitted that he ignores state procedure.
Are we going to stand by and let our social service agencies go rogue?
Jack, we don't have a case against him.
Ничего нет.
Not yet.
Пока нет.
Let's see what's in those case files.
Here's the last record in the file.
What about the sensitive material from several years ago Montrose told us about?
Mysteriously missing.
Christmas Day, huh? That is one dedicated caseworker.
Мог ли социальный работник навестить семью Бауэров в их квартире днем на Рождество? Да, наверное, да.
That's one lying caseworker. We got a ticket set.
This report's a complete fabrication.
Montrose says he prefers to be the point of contact with the city.
Then let's give him what he wants.
Here's the last record in the file.
What about the
Mysteriously.
Christmas Day, huh? That is...
Так.
That's one lying caseworker. We got a ticket says Aaron Bauer was at the top of the World Trade Center at 2 that afternoon.
This report's a complete fabrication, no question. But who do we indict?
Montrose says he prefers.
Then let's give him...
Да.
Here's the last record in the file.
What
Конечно,
about
всем
the
привет, кто меня
sensitive
смотрит.
material from several years ago Montrose told us about?
Mysteriously missing.
Christmas Day, huh? That is one dedicated caseworker.
Почему нет? Значит, первое.
That's one lying caseworker.
This report's...
Montrose...
Here's the
Конечно.
last record in the file. Mysterious.
Christmas...
А, он был в центре.
That's one line, caseworker. We got a ticket that says Aaron Bauer was at the top of the World Trade Center at 2 that afternoon.
This report's a complete fabrication, no question. But who do we indict? Simplest thing would be to go after the caseworker, but
Montrose says he prefers to be the point of contact with the city.
then let's give him what he
Так
wants.
что давайте дадим ему, что он хочет. Круто. Офис окружного.
Throughout his career, Stefan Montrose has continually shown a light on the system's indifference to its most vulnerable citizens. Tuesday afternoon, the system struck back.
We know what the columns are saying, Miss Jameson. We intend to prove that Dr. Montrose is guilty as charged.
Manslaughter with gross negligence?
In addition to one count of falsification of records with intent to deceive.
I'm afraid you won't get the chance to present those records in court. I'm filing a motion to suppress. Paperwork went through the day before the subpoena was served. Good Shepherd is no longer run by the Archdiocese of New York. It's now an entirely private agency, administered through Dr. Montrose's holding company, New Directions.
So you propose to throw out the evidence because we put the wrong address on the subpoena? Of all the underhanded ploys.
The argument is technically correct. Improper service of a subpoena invalidates admissibility. The court finds for the motion.
Fine.
Отлично, обойдемся без этого. Суд, процесс над кем? Этот хер.
Dr. Montrose, we've heard in graphic detail about the final days of Aaron Bauer. It's natural to feel pity and perhaps even outrage over the manner in which he died. So tell the court, are you in fact guilty of gross negligence?
No, I am not.
Let me read you a quote. Neglect is built into our current welfare system. The client is a mere asset to be kept or traded as it benefits the agency.
Ah, you're reading to me from my own book, The Empty High Chair, published last spring. My agency is different.
Indeed, Good Shepherd is distinguished for treating its clients with dignity, as individuals with needs. Isn't that right?
Хотите протестовать?
Objection!
Конечно. Протестуем.
Leading. Defense is giving a speech for her client.
Sustained. Let's concentrate on the facts of this case, shall we?
Were you personally involved in the case of Aaron Bauer?
I involved myself personally in every one of my cases. And this was especially true with respect to Aaron.
How so?
When the Bauers first came to my attention, Aaron had been taken into state custody and shut away inside City Youth Home. I know that institution well. Spent my own formative years there. Nobody deserves to go to City Youth Home. Nobody.
And yet, despite your personal involvement in this case, Aaron Bauer was killed. How do you explain this?
One word. Drugs. First it was the crack epidemic. Now, just as that's beginning to subside, an even worse plague is sweeping through New York. It's a plague that destroys mostly those on the margins. So it's easy for the rest of us to ignore.
Do you have some ideas for addressing this problem?
Objection. Immaterial. The defendant is changing the subject.
Sustained. Please strike that last statement from the testimony. New York City is not on trial here.
Jenna Bauer lapsed back into addiction, unbeknownst to you, although your caseworker visited her as recently as Christmas Day.
I'm afraid that's correct. In spite of our vigilance, in spite of intensive therapy, the siren call of crystal meth proved too much for her. And once she began using again, she quickly became a danger to her son.
How did she manage to pull the wool over your eyes?
It's one of the most insidious aspects of the syndrome. I've seen it many times. The addict puts up a false front of normalcy, a front that can fool even a trained observer.
One last question. Has this tragedy caused you to re-examine your practice?
Naturally. We're thoroughly reviewing our procedures. We exist to serve our clients. The death of one impoverishes us all.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Montrose. Your witness, Mr. McCoy.
Продолжаем.
Dr.
Доктор Монтрос.
Your agency advocated for Jenna Bauer in her bid to regain custody of her son, Aaron. In retrospect, was this in Aaron's best interest?
Considering his fate, the answer has to be no. But hindsight is always 20/20.
At the time, you believed the opposite to be self-evident, right? Every mother deserves to retain the custody of her children?
We weighed the pros and cons of Jenna Bauer's case, and we came to the conclusion that she deserved a second chance. Perhaps if we'd had more facts at our disposal, we would have agreed with the city's decision.
Соответствуют ли показания тому, что доктор... Нет. Почему нет? Так, альтернативной... Альтернативной было похищение... Было помещение Аарона в детский период, и Мадура сказала, что никак не участвовала.
In this case, the alternative was placing Aaron in city youth home. You simply didn't want him there. Dr. Montrose, have you ever signed off on moving a child from his parents' custody into the institutional foster care system?
No.
Нет.
State guidelines for social welfare agencies mandate one home visit per month at the very least.
You needn't lecture me. I'm well acquainted with state guidelines.
Do you follow them?
Yes, Mr. McCoy. We follow the state guidelines meticulously.
Good Shepherd didn't have its own guidelines?
No.
Нет. Вы ему верите? Нет, не верю. Я тебе не верю. Говорил детективам, что добрый пастырь действует согласно инстрайту. Третья часть.
Didn't you tell the detectives that Good Shepherd makes its own guidelines?
I don't recall saying anything of the sort.
Think back, Dr. Montrose. It was during the same interview in which you refused to turn over Aaron Bauer's case files, in clear violation of standard procedure.
Objection, immaterial.
It goes to credibility, Your Honor. Overruled.
I won't deny that our agency operates according to unique procedures, but if anything, our guidelines are more comprehensive than the state's.
You've heard Detective Curtis's account of what he found in Jenna Bauer's apartment, and you've seen the pictures.
Indeed, I have. What can I say? I had no idea until this very morning when my counsel showed me the pictures.
Является ли правдоподобным тот факт, что доктор Монтроуз не имел представления о состоянии квартиры Браунера на настоящее время? Нет. Соцработник звонила нам из квартиры.
We know your caseworker, Ms. Skylar, briefed you after Mrs. Bauer's body was discovered.
Well, yes, of course, but it takes a picture to really communicate the situation.
You're the expert, Dr. Montrose. Do you think it's possible for conditions to degenerate that rapidly in a mere 8 days?
It's possible, I suppose. But I have to admit, if I were an outside observer, I'd find it a difficult story to swallow. Indeed, if it weren't for my faith in my employer, Miss Skylar, I'd be inclined to think it was a story.
Really?
No
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense calls Wanda Schuyler to the witness stand. I know this is difficult for you, Miss Schuyler, but I want you to recall for us the moment you stepped into Jenna Bauer's apartment on January 1st.
It was like stepping off a cliff, you know?
Because of your feelings for Mrs. Bauer, you mean? Because you cared about her so much?
Objection!
Наводящий
Bleeding?
вопрос.
Sustained.
Would you say you had a
Вы говорили,
personal
что
connection with Aaron Bauer?
Yes,
Да,
I did.
это так, Aaron был
Aaron, he
замечательным
was a great
ребенком,
kid.
талантливым,
Talented,
понимаете?
you know.
Он хотел
He
стать
wanted to be a comic book
художником
artist when he grew
комиксов,
up.
когда вырастет. У него
He and I had a little
с ним даже
private game
играла.
where he pretended I was a superhero.
But he didn't say
No,
or do
ничего не
anything in the
говорил,
last few months to
ничего не
indicate his
говорил,
home
конечно.
life was deteriorating?
No, you know how boys can be at his age? Stoic. He probably thought it would be unmanly or disloyal to tattle on his mom.
Objection! The witness is speculating about the victim's motivation.
Sustained. Please confine yourself to your own impressions.
How long have you been employed with Good Shepherd, Miss Schuyler?
It'll be 3 years in April.
And in that time, has Dr. Montrose ever encouraged you to be negligent in your duties?
Not at all, no. Dr. Montrose is an inspiration. He knows firsthand how broken the system is, and he's completely passionate about reforming it. It's energizing. I only wish... I just wish this hadn't happened to him. I mean, to all of us.
Of course. We all do. Your witness.
Можете задавать свои вопросы.
Miss Schuyler, Dr. Montrose has testified that you visited the Bowers in their apartment on Christmas Day. At that time, did you find any indications that Jenna Bauer had lapsed back into her addiction to crystal meth?
I didn't see any.
I never made that visit. I don't have an excuse. I simply failed to do my job, and then I faked the report after the fact to cover up. I'm sorry, Dr. Montrose.
Whoa.
That's not what you said at the deposition. Are you changing your testimony, Miss Schuyler?
I guess so.
Were you briefed about this? Your Honor, prosecution was unprepared for this development. We petitioned the court for a continuance.
Petition granted. We will resume trial next week.
Ситуация.
I've been at the bar 30 years, Miss Jameson, but I don't think I've ever witnessed such a blatantly unethical maneuver. Instructing a witness to change her testimony without altering the deposition.
You have no grounds for accusing me of complicity.
You'd better hope I don't find any. Now, why are you protecting Dr. Montrose?
Don't let yourself be intimidated, Miss Schuyler. You don't have to answer anything.
No, but you do have to go to jail if you're found guilty of falsifying documents.
We need you to come clean. Please.
Будьте добры.
If you're telling the truth about forging that report, then you must have lied when you said you cared about Aaron.
That's not true. I did care. We had a bond.
Не верите? Рисунок Ванды Вумен, найденный в рюкзаке Аарона.
Why would you neglect your duties towards someone you care about?
Тут еще что-то есть. Так, Ванда.
You mentioned on the stand something about a private game between you and Aaron.
It was just a silly joke. It didn't mean anything.
It did to him, I think.
Серьезно?
You were his hero.
Вы были его героиней, однако вы его подвели. Вы должны были понять. Ванда, не отвечай. Я не могу. Вы знаете, как я верю в доктору Монтрозу, но я просто не могу. Вам лучше уйти. Я представляю ваш интерес.
Not anymore.
Больше нет. Вот такое, сразу все.
Now,
Итак,
what's the
что
real
было
story?
на самом деле? Да! Что было на самом деле? Нам
Miss
это не
Schuyler,
сказали.
I hold here your personal copy of a visitation report dated December 25th, signed by you and Dr. Montrose. Did you write this report?
No,
Who did?
Dr. Montrose.
But this is
Ну,
your
это ваша
signature.
честь.
Yes.
Да. Она опять подделала что-то. Ну, не девчонка, а какой-то этот кадр просто. Почему вы подписали это, когда вы это подписали к мотиву темы?
If you didn't write this report, why did you put your name
Если
on
вы
it?
не писали ничего.
He
Он
said,
сказал доктору Монтрose,
Dr. Montrose told me the city wanted to use the Bauer tragedy as a pretext for legal action, taking over the agency. Putting my name on that document was the only way to save it. Согласится ли это... Согласуется ли эта история с доказательством? Да? Так, каким образом? Доктор Монтрose говорил, что сотрудничество с властями приведет к захвату агентства муниципалитета. Охренеть, серьезно? Да не надо, выписывайте его отсюда нахер.
When did you
Когда
last
вы
visit
последний
Jenna
раз
and Aaron
освещали
Bauer?
Аарона?
Last spring? 8 months ago.
Прошлой весной это произошло? Да. Что? Была опубликована книга доктора Монтроуза.
Just after Dr. Montrose's book was published.
Yes,
Да, тогда
that's
мы
when things
работали
started getting
просто в
really
сумасшедшем
crazy for
темпе.
all of us.
Клиенты
We were flooded with new
Какой
clients. There was
просто
no
возможно
way
было
we could
здесь
keep up with
следить.
them.
Однажды
And then
доктор
one day,
Монтроуз
Dr.
собрал все в
Montrose
своем
called us into his
офисе и сказал,
office
что
and told us about
в
his
его новой
new early
программе
graduation program.
экспресс-выпуск.
Tell us about Dr.
Скажи нам,
Montrose's
пожалуйста,
early graduation
выпуск.
program.
He said
Говорят,
he
что
determined
определено,
that a
что
number of our
количество
clients
точно
no longer needed our services.
According to state guidelines.
No,
Нет,
according to his own guidelines. He called them his early graduates. He mailed each of them a certificate and a one-time payment of $1,000 in exchange for...
In exchange for them keeping quiet.
Yes.
Да.
Your witness.
Можете допрашивать.
We need to talk.
Нам нужно поговорить. Серьезно? Уже поговорить?
Ready to cut a deal?
My fate is
Моя вина в
immaterial,
этом
Mr.
весьма
McCoy.
незначительна.
My sole concern is to keep the
Единственная
reform
возможность
movement from
формировать
falling
систему.
apart.
Very
Вы
noble.
просто
What are
образец
you proposing?
вашей операции.
Dr. Montrose pleads to negligence and serves a 12-month probation. He agrees to step aside and allow an acting director to run Good Shepherd for the length of the term.
Oh, what an
Oh,
example
какой
of self-sacrifice that is. I've got a better idea, Dr. Montrose.
Не, ну, срок за непредумышленное убийство, срок за преступную халатность, условный срок, отказ сделки. Не, ну подождите. А на чем его... Он довел до того, что парня, которого мы нашли, он умер. Ну, его забили. Статуэткой. И при этом короче, какое? Он хочет отпетлять? Нет, отказ сделать. Похоже, он будет биться до конца. Увидимся в суде, Макой. Нет, это сразу нет, потому что, ну, нельзя так. Он уже подставил все и вся.
Perhaps this time we can get to the truth. Wanda Schuyler has made some remarkable assertions. Would you care to revise any of your previous statements in the light of her testimony?
Well, clearly I was mistaken in claiming that Good Shepherd did everything it could to avert this tragedy. The caseworker assigned to the Bowers was negligent. Criminally negligent.
Were you aware of her negligence? Did you in fact order her to stop making home visits?
Self-serving lies. I'm guilty of trusting in her professionalism. Nothing else. I'm a very busy man, Mr. McCoy. I don't get personally involved in every case.
Согласуется ли это? Нет. Почему нет? Доктор Монроуз показал ранее, что он принимает личное участие во всех деталях агентства, особенно в деле Аарона. Ну нахера ты? Ну конечно, в суде уже совершенно другое. Позволь мне зачитать этот протокол. Лично принимаю участие в деле Аарона.
Defendant, I involved myself personally in every one of my cases.
Well, yes, I said that, but there's only so much of me to go around.
Wanda Schuyler mentioned an early graduation program. Dr. Montrose, did you issue payouts to your clients, then drop them from your active client list without ever informing Child Protective Services?
Of course not. That's a complete fabrication.
Можете ли вы опровергнуть заявление Монтроуза? Да, могу. Каким образом? Чек на $1000, найденный в квартире Бауэр. А, это, получается, он ее передознул. Ну, не он, ну. Ваша честь, я хотел попросить проверить вещественное обязательное
Objection. Immaterial. New Directions is a completely different and unconnected corporate entity. If they issued a check to Jenna Bauer, that has no bearing on Dr. Montrose's culpability.
Вы можете возразить? Да. Могу возразить. Нет, ты все-таки пойдешь нахер. В тюрьму пойдешь. За убийство.
Hardly immaterial, Your Honor.
Agreed. Objection overruled.
So, did you send Mrs. Bauer a $1,000 check last April, Dr. Montrose? Or is that also a complete fabrication?
I may have done so.
You don't remember?
I believe I did.
What prompted you? Charity?
Of course. The Bowers were very poor. They needed help.
Yes, they did. But you gave them cash.
Ну да. Это плохо.
Dr. Montrose has devoted his life to helping those who have been failed by the system. But some, sadly, are beyond help. And sometimes a good agency can be undone by the actions of one dishonest employee. If Wanda Schuyler hadn't failed to discharge her duties and then compounded her failure with lies, might Good Shepherd have been able to save Jenna and Aaron Bauer? We'll never know. It's a bitter irony that a champion of reform should fail to spot the corruption among his own staff. He can be faulted, perhaps, for being too trusting, too optimistic about human nature. Surely this is no crime. But if my client is convicted of these charges, if he's sent to jail and his reform movement is crushed by the powers that be, it will be more than a crime. It will be an outrage.
Нет, ребятушки, нет. Это не будет.
Dr. Montrose made his name arguing that our welfare system treats his clients like numbers. He proposed to treat them with dignity as individuals. His message resonated with millions, and he became famous. But the demands of celebrity caused him to neglect his own principles. In the end, his own clients were reduced to numbers. Numbers on checks. Children belong with their parents. This is a sentiment that resonates with us, and we can be grateful that Dr. Montrose's advocacy has helped push our welfare system to take the claims of parents more seriously. But not every individual case conforms to the ideal. In the case of Jenna and Aaron Bauer, the defendant's ideals blinded him to the realities of the case and led him to make a serious error. The deaths of Aaron and Jenna Bauer left Dr. Montrose with a terrible decision to make. He could acknowledge his agency's mistake, but this would compromise his moral authority as a public advocate. Or he could cover up the evidence of his neglect and perhaps preserve his reputation at the expense of his integrity. Dr. Montrose chose the less noble expedient. What causes people to commit crimes of gross negligence? I've run across many motives in my day. Resentment, greed, indifference, callousness. Dr. Montrose is motivated to make the world a better place. His good intentions, it seems, have blinded him to the evil he has perpetrated. That's what makes him a tragic figure and a dangerous one. And that's why it's so imperative that justice be done.
Have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of gross negligence, we find the defendant, Stephen Montrose, guilty as charged. In the case of manslaughter...
Another victory for truth and justice.
Is it? Good Shepherd will go into receivership, and before long it'll be just another child welfare agency.
Montrose was a fraud, Jack. He got what he deserves.
But does his movement deserve to die? How many parents are going to lose their kids as a result of this decision?
Hey, it's not our job to second guess. Our job is to call them as we see them, and trust that it'll all work out in the end. Come on, let's get a drink.
Allison.
Алиса, отлично выглядите.
I feel great.
Я чувствую себя
I've even been
отлично.
running
Как
again.
ставится?
Where's Detective
Где
Curtis?
His daughter's
У
birthday.
него сегодня день рождения.
So,
Дочери.
I'm guessing your recovery is going better than the last time we talked.
Last time we talked, I
Последний
was
раз,
in
когда
a
мы
coma.
виделись, я была в
I've been seeing a
шоковое состояние
hypnotherapist, of all
и
things.
все такое.
Anything
Что-то
jog your memory?
памяти, простите.
Sorry, that was terrible.
Нет.
No. I do remember running with Harrison, the orange overhead lamps and the trees, but that's it. Nothing after. I'm sorry.
Don't be. Trauma like
Не
this
стоит
is
извиняться,
often
травма
memory
определенно
loss.
вещей.
I still miss him,
Я
though.
все еще тоскую.
Harrison's family's been great. His father's been taking care of all the bills. And, of course, he's pleased as punch about his new grandson. We're calling him Brendan.
Good. We sort of wondered if the surprise grandbaby might be a problem.
Not at all. So we weren't married. So we were in high school. Things like this teach you. That stuff doesn't matter. Grandpa Bedford loves that boy to death.
Any more thoughts on who would have wanted to kill Harrison?
No. Everyone loved him. You really think someone targeted him?
В газетах писали, что это было убийство в состоянии аффекта.
Yeah, don't
Не
believe
верьте всему,
everything
что
you read.
пишут в газетах.
Well, thanks for
Ладно,
everything,
спасибо за все,
Detective.
детектив. Жаль, что
I'm
не
sorry I
могу
can't help
вам
more.
больше
Take
помочь.
care, Allison.
Береги себя, Алиса. Ни хрена себе. Это, ну, это... Подожди, а как мы могли бы... Чтобы он сел на несколько лет, либо по полной он присядет и потеряет все с этими. Но лучше, знаете, то, что он сделал, заплатил матери 1000 баксов. Из этих баксов она купила себе таблетки и передознулась. Из-за того, что ее сын умер. Ну, его ударили статуэткой по башке. Ну, то есть, не знаю я. Хотя я немножко согласен с прокурором, который вел это дело. Ну, можно было его не рубить с плеча, а договориться, но как-то это все было бы, ну, не то. Вот. Сделки давать еще? Нет, на сделки мы не идем. Вообще ни в какой. Никакие сделки нафиг. Вот. 4-й эпизод. 4-му эпизоду конец. Вот, мы его прошли. 5-й будет следующий, к следующему расписанию. Как вы видите, ниже под описанием будет. Вот я прохожу по эпизодно. Так что на этом я, наверное, буду заканчивать. Вот. Закон и порядок. Да? Ладно, ребята. Подписываемся на канал, ставим лайки, комментируем. И все. Всем покедова. И до завтра. Ой, до вечера. Ой. Все.